This week, we travel into a tome that sends us into the world of sailor girls and senpais with big eyes, small mouth. Remember this well. There are two types of fights. As we have put our lives in battle, we must be able to distinguish between the two. The fight to protect life and the fight to protect pride. Ichigo, Bleach.
Which is an appropriate quote because it is from an anime, and this is a game about playing anime.
Did you pick this quote, or did you just go anime quotes and grab the one that I like this character? I'm going to take his quote.
It's pretty much column B on that one.
Okay.
I tracked down specifically nothing, and I went to a search engine.
Well, there you go. You don't have a favorite anime quote? Do you have a favorite anime quote?
It's hard to find one that for this, in this game, there was nothing really quotable. Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, we should actually introduce ourselves, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Actually, since there's more than just you and me here today.
Yeah, we've got a guest on Tome Travelers.
Yeah, so first and foremost, welcome back to the new and improved Tome Travelers as we start up our new show format.
Yeah, where we're only like once a month maybe.
Yeah.
Although this is our most popular show, so we might be shooting ourselves in the foot.
Yeah, we might up it a little bit.
We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah,
we do have some really cool games to look at, though, coming up.
True.
So,
okay,
who are
but
you?
Of course, I'm John.
And I'm Roxy.
And today we're joined by
Sam.
Which you probably, if you listen to our other show, Dice Warriors, Sam was on the first 3 episodes of that, which I think are some of our best work so far.
He actually submitted our first episode to a podcast award.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So,
I'm hopeful. I'm actually
if
hopeful.
we win, we'll bring a third of it back to you. We'll break off,
Here's your portion.
I know it's probably just a certificate.
I get head.
We'll just cut it in, triangles.
There we go.
We'll just cut it in thirds.
But you were asking Sam instead of me, actually.
Yeah, I was wondering, do you have a anime quote or something that you have heard that you were like, I really like that?
I don't really, when I watch anime, I really don't think of quotes. I just kind of take it all in.
Yeah.
And I mean, what they're saying is very important too. But I would have to say, whenever a character dies. That's my favorite quote. I don't know of anyone.
Yeah.
After 20 minutes of monologue.
Exactly. Yeah, because they're dying for the longest time. That's what were we watching? Oh, we watch a show called Blind Spot that's currently on NBC.
Yeah.
And everybody dies so fast in that show, except for the good guys. The good guys are like, oh, it's just a graze. Oh, but you're bleeding. I'm afraid you're gonna die. No, it's just a graze. I'm fine. And they're fine. This guy over here gets stabbed kind of here, and it's like he didn't hit anything important. I mean, you're gonna hurt.
Yeah.
But you're going to bleed out and be in pain for like an hour. But they're like, oh, he's
Maybe
dead.
longer.
We lost all of our...
There was something like that in Robotech, like one of the big moments. Rick Hunter's brother, Roy, I think was his name.
Yeah.
They had gotten to this huge fight, and he gets out, and he's like, I'm all right. So he goes to meet his girlfriend, and he's like sitting in her chair, and they're talking, and he passes out, like falls over, and he has like this massive hole in the back of his, in his back, and he dies. And it's like, wait, there's nothing on the chair.
Yeah.
It must be makeup.
And he didn't leave a trail on his way there.
Yeah. Nobody saw this massive.
Well,
hole in his back.
was it a wound that like cauterized immediately? Was it like an energy plasma weapon?
I don't think so. I think it was like something exploded because of a missile or.
But people are still going to bleed. I mean, and they're going to go, oh, But no, I think the only anime quote that I can think of at the moment that I use a lot is in Death Note, and it's when Ryuk first introduces himself to Light, and he's eating an apple, and he's like, "Ooh, juicy!" hearing the because I guess there's no word in Japanese for juicy, and so they just transliterate the English word, and so we get juicy. And so I'll use that at inappropriate moments.
It's better than saying this is a moist apple.
Oh yeah. I just was having a discussion with someone. She's like, I hate the word moist, and then later on somebody said fart, and she's like, I hate the word fart.
Moist was actually voted as being like the most disgusting word ever, apparently.
It's interesting. I know this is not on the topic. This is for our Patreon listeners to get this discussion. But I told that girl, I was like, but what if it's a moist fart? That's even worse.
But we're not talking about moist or farts or Moist farts. We're talking about Big Eyes, Small Mouth, which was better known as the role-playing game BESM. I tracked down some historical events and some trivia kind of stuff that, things that happened when this was released. And this was released in 1997.
Is our book from 97?
I think this is the second printing.
This is the second edition.
Yeah, second edition.
We're looking at second edition, which I do remember when I was kind of dabbling with creating a character off mic, that they talked about streamlining the rules, and I was like,
how's this streamlined?
How is this streamlined?
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that part. But so in 1997, we have some movies that came out. We have Titanic.
Did Armageddon come out that year, or did it come out the next year?
It
probably came out in 90. I'm probably like way
It's
off.
not on the list.
It's
it
not
didn't come out this year.
These are the only movies that came out. Jeez.
These three specific, yes. Titanic. So
Yeah.
huge movie though. That was a crazy movie when that came out. The amount of times people went to see that over and over.
I saw it twice. Not of my own. Well, I mean, I went, but my friend wanted to go see it because she was a big Leonardo DiCaprio fan. Did I see it twice? No, she saw it twice, and I went with her the second time. And I remember sitting in the theater, and iceberg right ahead, and she was already crying.
Oh my god!
And I was like, you knew. I mean, number one, you've seen it, so, but number two, you knew it was going to happen, right? I mean,
Well, I can understand though, because One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, at the 30 minutes before the end, I start crying.
oh really?
Just because of just the sheer horror of what's going on.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've seen it so many times, and I'm like, oh, and so you play through it, so it's understandable.
It is. I do believe that. Let's see, 97. You said
Yeah.
I turned
God.
13 that year.
Oh, shut up.
Wow.
But I'm pretty sure that it was just because, Leonardo DiCaprio's character died. Because Jack.
Jack could have fit on that plane.
He could have fit on that door.
Anyone says.
But also that year we had Men in Black came out.
Yay!
That's pretty good.
That was a pretty good movie. Can you imagine that? Those two movies came out at the same time.
Wow.
It's just
Men in
weird to
Black
think
is far
about.
better.
And then, of course, The Fifth Element
Yay.
by Luc Besson,
that's
which
fantastic.
you liked Valerian.
I enjoyed Valerian. I know people that did not. I've read some negative reviews and stuff, but for something that I didn't know anything about, I still felt that it captured.
Yeah.
It captured my attention and my imagination. It was very, very pretty. Did
I
you?
never saw it.
We'll get it on Vudu and watch it because it's very whoa.
Because I like Luc Besson.
Yeah.
Fifth Element
It's-
was where I was introduced, and
You
I liked
have
it.
to divorce yourself a little bit from Fifth Element and think of some of his other works in order to really enjoy.
I want to
Valerian,
say
I'll
I've
be
seen
honest.
some of his, like you've shown me some of his
Yeah.
other
See,
stuff.
and I didn't know. I didn't know who Luc Besson was, so I just went in as a bright-eyed, full of wonder. Where will this adventure take me?
Yeah.
My biggest gripe was that I couldn't rectify the lead character's voice with how he looked. I have a problem with that sometimes.
Who?
Yeah.
Where?
And
On Valerian?
Yeah,
Oh.
the guy who plays Agent Valerian, for some reason it's like radio personalities too. When I hear their voice, I imagine how I think they're going to look,
yeah.
and then I see them and they don't look anything like that. It really confuses.
I actually look handsome and have a very muscular bod, so just in case you're wondering.
He does. We'll vouch for that.
But yeah, so those were the movies that year, which 1997 kind of dates it, and of course Fifth Element. What captured it for me, Fifth Element, was it was almost a the live action anime. It had the anime kind of feel, pacing, scope.
Yeah, the really overdone weapons and the bad guys and the ship, the massive spaceship,
Yeah.
whatever the name was, I forget what it was called.
But moving
I
into
don't remember either.
moving into music, Urban Hymns by The Verve, Be Here Now by Oasis, OK Computer by Radiohead.
Did you just pick bands that I listened to? Is that
No. I went and looked at I look at a list of what the top charting music is that year.
this
Things
was-
that people that would remember.
The mid '90s were definitely. This was kind of on the tail end.
Yeah.
I mean, OK Computer was really big because wasn't there's a song on there. I don't remember now. Paranoid Android, I think, was on
Yeah.
OK Computer. I think. People probably don't know Be Here Now. That was kind of people loved Oasis with their previous record, which came out right in the heart of that new British invasion. But Be Here Now, that's when I got into them because I only listened to like the Beatles and the Beach Boys until I was like 14.
Yeah.
But so I liked that album. And then Urban Hymns had probably the only American charting Verve song ever. And you probably have heard it, Sam. It's called Bittersweet Symphony.
Oh, yeah.
Symphony.
It annoyed me.
Yeah. That's all right.
But, definitely, putting those things in, retrospect, dating when this game came out. That's like the big thing on this. But other things, Tiger Woods becomes the youngest golfer to win the Masters.
And look how far he fell.
I was just watching him golf the other day while I was on the treadmill.
Yeah.
It was better than the news stations.
Yeah. Princess Diana and Mother Teresa died that year.
See, okay, this is a very... I'm starting to remember more about 1997 because that same friend who loved Leonardo DiCaprio, her mother was killed that year in a car accident.
Oh, wow.
And it was like right around the same time as Princess Diana. And I was like, oh my God. Not that the two were related at all, but I was just like, oh my goodness, this is too... Because by the time Christmas rolled around, because Titanic came out like right before Christmas.
Yeah.
And, excuse me, my friend was living with her grandparents. I remember that now because we had to walk from the theater the day after, like 2 days after Christmas, to the McDonald's that was in the parking lot of the mall where the theater was, which is like, that parking lot, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it was like 1.5 miles to that parking lot. And this is Missouri. It's cold. It snowed. There's ice on the ground. And we're all... I was like, I feel like we took cues from Leonardo DiCaprio's acting there at the end. Don't let go.
But here's another big one. J.K. Rowling's British Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, came out.
The world had no idea what it was in for when that came out.
This was a pretty cool year, though. I mean, a lot of big events, in my opinion.
Well, those are pretty big events, yeah.
Yeah.
What little I remember, I'm busy trying to forget.
Now, here's some stuff that, every other show we've done this, we've looked at, the historical events. We're also going to look at the anime that came out that year.
Of course.
And we'll talk about that here in a moment, too. But in 1997, you had Princess Mononoke.
Yay.
Huge
I've never
movie.
seen that. Let me wait till the end of this list to tell you which ones of these I've seen.
I have the soundtrack. It's really good.
John loves it. He wants me to see it. That's a Miyazaki, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And when you see it, let me know because I want to see it again.
Okay.
Dragon Ball GT, which was a continuation. Dragon Ball Z had been a huge hit, came over to the U.S., got popular again, and Dragon Ball GT is kind of like the relaunch moment.
It was Gran Turismo where they're all racing, right?
No, but
it
had the over cosplayed Trunks character who's got the purple butt cut and the giant sword on his back, and you go
purple butt cut.
I
always laugh when people refer to that hairstyle as the butt cut.
But you go to any anime convention, and usually somebody there wants to be the dashing Trunks in that outfit and that sword and that haircut.
Is that his name, Trunks?
That's his name, Trunks. His mom is Bulma, which is, of course, the Japanese word for underwear.
Oh, no, I didn't. No, I thought...
The naming convention was like there were musical instruments, I believe.
Uh-huh. Piccolo.
Like Piccolo, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
See, that's a cute name.
Yeah. So you had that. You had Evangelion. That was a huge series that you either love or hate. You had Night Stalkers, which is we were actually talking about the character of Felicia from Night Stalkers earlier, the cat weregirl.
Was it Night Stalkers?
Yeah, Night Stalkers is the.
This had come up in a conversation about why this generation that we are kind of in is obsessed with what is that? What is that word? Anthropomorphized animals.
Yeah.
And Night Stalkers was actually listed by some people that I was talking to as one of the reasons why.
And it was a video game too, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Slayers came out, which Lena Inverse, the main character, really slapstick comedy dungeon crawl anime. So I think a lot of gamers and a lot of RPG gamers may have seen it from my generation. But then think of it this way. We've listed off all these things that came out in 1997. This was 2 years after the theatrical release of the anime Ghost in the Shell, the film.
You believe me, you definitely needed to include that. It's one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah. So 2 years after that. I mean, so that means that came out the year I graduated high school. 1995, Ghost in the Shell came out for its first theatrical run.
I hate both of y'all.
You're not that much older than John.
No, you're
I
not.
graduated 92.
Yeah, but that's 3 years. So
My sister was
I
born
feel
that
old.
year.
I feel old.
That's how. Yeah, my sister was born that
I
year.
need to buy a cane here in a little bit.
Well, they're actually good for beating people too.
But
No, I've only seen Ghost in the Shell, and didn't even come out this year. I've never seen any of those other ones.
yeah. Now, this is part of the reason that I actually wanted to include other people
That's
in
why
this show.
You know nothing about the.
Well, all three of us have
that's
different perspectives on anime.
That's my role in
yeah.
this show, the one who knows nothing.
We all three come from a different generation of anime watching, in my opinion. I mean, Sam, what are some of the animes that you watched?
I cut my teeth on Akira and Black Magic M66.
Okay.
Is that the one that we watched?
Yes, it is.
I mean, it's really cool looking and really kind of creepy. And then Ghost in the Shell was much later, obviously. But there was another one. I don't know the name of it. All I remember is it was a bunch of girls in the chibi style where they have the big head and small bodies. And it was a comedy. It's like they're trying to film this science fiction movie, and each of the girls dies. In like these, like one girl is like floating in a tank, and they're like, "All right, cut," and she's like, and dies. And then like in the next scene, she's still there. So it was just a huge comedy. But Akira is like my all-time favorite as a result.
Yeah.
And what about for you, Roxy? I mean, what are the animes that got you started?
It's been a lot of more recent stuff. Anything that I've watched that was in the past, that was before the last like 10 years, was probably from you. But let's see, the first anime that I watched was actually Death Note. And I started to watch, because I had seen anime before. Because when my cousin was still married, her and her husband watched anime together. And they watched Witchblade, Claymore, and something else I can't remember. But I would just sit there and work on my computer and cackle. Because it was just so over the top and ridiculous. Like, there was one, Roxy. And it was like somebody was dying and they're like, and they're saying, and I was just like, oh my, come on guys, come on, no. Yeah. And so, but later on, so I, after making fun of it for a long time, I watched because I'd heard a lot of good stuff about Death Note. So I watched Death Note on my phone in my room real quiet where my roommate couldn't hear me because I was like, they'll think I'm a hypocrite. I am a hypocrite. Oh, it's so good.
Oh, I totally forgot. Voltron. I grew up with Voltron.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And Robotech, because when I think Robotech, I think Harmony Gold, because that's that's the company that brought it over. But it was an anime. It was 3 separate animes, as a matter of fact. And I saw those before I saw actual like movie animes. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I watched Death Note, and I watched one called K. We also watched Black Butler. We kind of went through Netflix's options, and based on I kind of like more dark, because Death Note to me is actually kind of a weird like procedural cop drama, but you're seeing both sides, and I actually was like, I think my mom would like this show if she would watch it. I mean, it does have this supernatural with the gods of death or whatever, or the death demons or whatever they're called, but I can't remember what they're called now, but yeah,
Shinigami, wasn't it?
Shinigami, that's it.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I watched a lot of real weird fan servicey ones too, because they just would make me laugh so hard. I watched.
Well, we can talk about currently. We both watch Food Wars, which is definitely kind of fan servicey.
Food Wars is so good. No, but I watched Prison School. I've seen Prison School like 3 or 4 times now.
Yeah, you and I started to watch it together.
You didn't like it, so I went home and I was like sick one day, and Amanda wasn't around, so I watched Prison School and Tokyo Ghoul and all this stuff that was really good. But yeah, I watched Prison School, which is completely awful. I mean, it's as far as content.
Oh, it is fan service S&M.
A all-girl school they open it up so boys can go. and there's this small group of boys, and all the girls are like, oh, they got to be perverts because they're boys, blah, 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 this stuff. And they get caught perving. And
of course.
Of course, in the first episode, and they get thrown into the school's prison, and, you know, and there are other students that are like, you know, maintaining the prison, and, you know, it's like a work prison. It's really bizarre, but if you ever just want like mindless entertainment and like nose bleeding and it's just weird. But I can't remember the other one, but there was the other one where the kid got nosebleeds every time I mean, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
But he would like blow up the world.
Yeah. If he got if he had a nosebleed, the world would.
Yeah. If he got the nosebleed, he'd be like, oh no. And if he saw underwear again, the whole planet would just like nuke.
Wow.
And it actually had a good story once you got past every time. The silliness. But, gosh, I don't remember the name of it, but there was, Amanda would know.
Yeah. But for me, I got into anime watching, you know, like you, I saw when I was a kid, Robotech and Voltron, not really realizing those were anime. But then, you know, as an adult or a young adult, I started watching ADVision and Viz and a lot of these companies. I was in Houston, and a lot of these companies got started down there. So I started watching Ranma. You know, Ranma was probably the biggest one for me.
I used to collect the comic books.
A friend of mine, Tim Ellie, who was with Antarctic Press for a while, he actually showed me KO Seki Beast, or KO Century Beast, as it was released here eventually. And all these, you know, kind of, I hate to say it, a lot of the harem series, Oh My Goddess.
That's a very popular genre.
It is. It was. I think it's kind of losing popularity a little bit nowadays, at least here in the U.S. to some extent. I'm certain there's still that kind of stuff, but you know, it's not really in the ballpark of what I watch now. But that, you know, but then that was the thing. That was, if you wanted to see anime, this was a lot of what you had to watch. Mm-hmm. And I still have a lot of my old DVDs of anime, which I love.
We liked that one that you showed. Amanda and I liked that. Was it Read or Die?
Yes, Read or Die is so good.
Where they control paper, or whatever, the papermancers.
Yeah.
That was cool.
For, you know, this desire that gamers have, we watch these things and we want to take part in their stories. And BESM was without a doubt the game that if you know, when it came out, you know, there weren't as many well-known RPGs. BESM was the one you wanted to play if you wanted to play an anime RPG. That was like the go-to. But we'll discuss why that works or doesn't work. But so this was originally created by Mark McKinnon for a company called Guardians of Order. And we actually have a couple of books out on the table today. Mm-hmm. The mechanics of the property. So Mark McKinnon created the Tri-Stat system, which is a simple system that allows for testings to be done by considering the use of only 3 numbers: body, mind, and soul. Mm-hmm. At least that was the idea, was to make it a little bit simpler that way.
You know, I mean, and it doesn't seem too complicated.
Yeah. Character creation is, but the traits are derived attributes that act in concert with the special abilities characters to make them more anime or cartoon-like. Interesting group of people that he started off with, though. But he pulled in a guy named David L. Pulver, who had previously worked on GURPS, the RPG by Steve Jackson Games, Steve Jackson Games, I mean, most of us know it for...
He's an institution.
Yeah. He, especially,
Munchkin.
I mean, tabletop gaming, Munchkin. That's like one of his big ones. What are some of the other Steve Jackson
Road
big
Wars,
ones?
I think it was called.
Yeah, that's
It was like early
Ninja Burger
1980s.
is Steve Jackson.
Ninja Burger.
We have a lot. We have Steve Jackson games that I can't.
But
Shay Geek.
Shay Geek, yeah,
Is Steve Jackson.
yeah.
I was gonna say Orc, but I think that was Green Ronin.
But no, I mean that was where this all got launched off. But he began writing supplements for what essentially was a simple game and added, you know, systems for things like mecha. He had a book that was big robots and cool starships. Skills were added in the next supplement, which was a genre book called Hot Rods and Gun Bunnies, which kind of gives me the idea of some of the ones that I like. What was the other one?
You like gun bunnies?
Well, there was a series of anime by the soundtrack was done by the Seatbelts, who did Cowboy Bebop. It was another series about two girls that owned a gun shop and drove a Mustang Cobra. It took place in the U.S., which made it a very odd anime.
Oh wow!
But so yeah, it was. I really felt like that book was meant for that. But all things aside, all these books led to the creation of a second edition, which is what we have on the table there today. So I don't have the first edition anymore. This is a semi out of print game.
Yeah, I think it's still on Drive-Thru RPG.
It is in Art House Games, which is where a lot of games kind of go to die. But we'll talk about that in a moment. But so they made a lot of side products as well to focus on specific animes. They made one for Sailor Moon, which is a huge one for a lot of people out there. So Sailor Moon was a huge anime. They did this recently. I think somebody actually Twitch streamed the entire series not that long ago.
Oh, Can you do that?
It's kind of like Reading Rainbow and what's the other big one that gets streamed a lot? Bob Ross.
Really?
Somebody.
I don't know anything about streaming, so you got me on that.
Yeah,
one.
These are all things people have gotten the rights to do a single stream of and done like a whole a day long of just
imagine,
that.
I don't know. We watched Bob Ross when collections of his started popping up on Netflix. And I mean, I used to watch him, 20, 30 years ago when he was still doing it. But all day.
Yeah.
Just like a continuous
an endless stream of
Bob
Ross.
I do think that we need more positivity in the world, but holy crap, guys.
Oh, just as a complete side tangent, my dad actually had Bob Ross hair when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
No, I can't imagine that.
There's a
I know, I
picture
can't
of him,
either.
And we'd show it to all our friends and laugh, and he's like, all right. So
my dad looks like Bob Ross.
So he would show pictures of us as little babies in
My
bathtubs.
dad only ever looked like Wolverine.
Wow.
His hair connected to his beard, and it was just like this. And then there were like pictures where it was like kind of spiked out.
That's a very common thing in anime where the hair kind of comes down to the beard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it works.
See, well, when we get into the art of the book, I will unleash my late to anime grievances.
Well, let's
the art in this book. Yeah, let's do something else.
Yeah, we'll hot track it there in a second. But other books that they made, like out of specific animes, they made Dominion Tank Police, which I loved that series. Demon City Shinjuku, which was a movie, kind of horror vein kind of movie. Tenchi Muyo, which is also a very popular harem anime series. One guy, a whole bunch of girls.
Yep.
All of them want to marry him.
Yep.
But they then published 11 books past that in this series.
Wow.
So now we can get on to that part that we've been waiting for. Let's talk about the books themselves. We actually have the book. We have a book for series of adventures, and we actually have the GM screen. We have a pretty good little cornucopia here.
This little book came with the GM screen, and it does have, I believe, a scenario in it.
Which is nice, because...
Yeah, there's a scenario in it. But yeah, I don't know, do you guys want to talk about it?
No,
as
let's get
experienced
in
anime
there.
people?
Let's get it. Well, talking about the book itself, I mean, it is a softbound book.
It is, it's a paperback book. It's maybe 3/4 of an inch thick. It's very green. Uses it's got lots of art. I mean, it's not bad. It's not laid out in a bad way. I don't feel as strongly against it as I did about
some of the other books from that era.
Aberrant.
Yeah.
Now this copy came out in 2000. This is as you said, the second edition. But this is me being nitpicky, and I'll probably catch flack for this, but it's this art style because anime doesn't really look exactly like this anymore. But this was a lot of anime of that era.
Yeah. Okay. So the anime I was thinking of earlier was Gunsmith Cats. Fits in that kind of mold.
Trigun fits in this mold.
Bubblegum Crisis. Definitely. The main character right there.
Rurouni Kenshin also has this kind of... And I don't have a problem with those animes, but this art style just makes me not want to watch. I don't know what it is. It's... Number one, these things. What are these? Because that was a big thing in animes, wasn't
She's
it?
pointing at, on the cover, there's this girl. She's inside of a giant robot, and she has these two weird metallic...
They almost look like metallic bunny ears that are flopped down and
Yeah.
hanging down, but they're just like pinned in her hair. I mean, they're not actually part of her
and
body,
they
I don't
serve
think.
no purpose but to be a cool fashion statement of some sort.
And I'm just like, what even are you? Are you...
Well, in Tenchi Muyo, didn't he have like these like single like ponytail looking things like that were like in front of? They were like long extensions of
It's
sideburns.
just weird stuff that
That was like really big for
and
some
strange,
reason.
almost, are they tattoos or scars? I could never tell.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I never saw it.
So to me, some of this, and I'm not going to say that the art is bad, because it's all very good. I will say that her little control rod or magic scepter for her mech looks a little inappropriate. But
Yeah, it does.
Wait, what? I didn't see this
Yeah,
part.
look
What?
at the pink little...
or no, her little control rod.
Oh my.
Yeah, that's where she keeps the charges.
Wow, I'm sure she does.
No, but
D cells.
I mean, I'm not going to say the art is bad, because everybody that contributed to this clearly is very talented as an artist, and I could not do any of this. But there's just something about it that makes me not. I wouldn't want to watch this, and I've ever since the Aberrant episode, I think people think I'm super critical of things, because I was like, this looks like the cover of Amazing Stories, and this isn't amazing.
Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, I mean, that kind of looks cool, but that's a completely different art style. That looks
Yeah.
like, is it McCree? McCready?
Yeah, it does look like
Or-
McCready from Overwatch.
Or whatever, the character in Overwatch. High noon.
Yeah.
I can't do that. But
The style actually reminds me of another comic I used to collect called Gold Digger.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that it kind of some of the artwork kind of reminds
And that's
me of
actually
that.
another comic put
That
out
was
by Antarctic
90s.
Press.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
They did Ninja High School and a
It
few
was
others
funny
like
as
that.
hell.
now,
Oh,
when
I
you
loved
say
it.
comic, are you referring to the mangas?
No.
There's actual comics?
book.
Okay.
There was actually a company in
I
Texas.
figured you would be specific, but
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
But it was called Antarctic Press, and the lead artist, who I can't remember his name, but he kind of pioneered this very... It was anime style, but he kind of went with his own way. And
Yeah, it was the same but different.
Yeah, it was, and it captured. It brought it out in America, where I mean, he was creating original content, so it was very easy for him to do it. But a friend of mine, Tim Ellie, who I see at Houston comic conventions all the time, and I say hi to him every time I see him. He was an artist for them for a while.
Oh, okay. I also collected Ranma What Half comic book.
Yeah.
Also funny as hell. Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
I
it
could never
wasn't
get
until
enough of
like the late '90s that they started really putting out the comics in the
The big trade
Japanese
paperback.
format, where it was kind of reading from back to
The
front.
manga. So
Yeah.
that's a newer thing.
It was newer than where we started.
Or where we were. Okay. Well, I feel like maybe it was new here, because
Mm-hmm.
it seems like in older things, like even I think in Totoro, there was like, I don't know, I could be completely wrong, I could be thinking, but it seems like I've seen what looks like manga.
Yes.
I don't ever mangas. I always said manga, but everybody else I've heard now says manga, so I don't know if I'm correct or not. But the collection of the anime, the paper bound version of the stories, it seems like I've seen them in older animes.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And so I don't.
they
Maybe
read
they were
them.
popular in Japan.
They
but
were popular in
weren't-
Japan,
okay, they
but
weren't here.
it's another thing, kind of like Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. It's that idea that when you bring it over to America, you have to Americanize it.
You can't call it the Philosopher's Stone. It sounds boring, and American children are boring.
And
They need magic.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like when they brought the comics over here, Ranma. I used to have a couple issues of Love Hina, where it read front to back, and they put it in paperback style of a comic.
Yeah.
Which, of course, doing it that way, they could turn one of those manga books into like multiple comics. So
Yeah.
smart business, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's as far as the art style goes and book style goes. But thoughts on the gameplay itself? Y'all both had a chance to some extent to look at it.
Yeah. I have actually never played this. Have either of you ever actually played this?
I have.
I want to say I created a character and it never got further from that. So
Yeah.
I started to create a character using the second edition rules, and my character sheet has a name, Mikami Hiroko, and I gave her try stats, and that was where I stopped, because it was one of those things where the game is built around the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
The GM has to, it's like, talk to your GM, find out what kind of game he wants to, or what game you guys are what kind of story you're gonna tell, then get a good concept for your character. And I am awful with creating concepts for characters. I just want to roll stats and then figure out my character as I go. I never start with something. And, and I take that back. I've started starting with things. But for this, knowing that we weren't going to play it, I just didn't have the motivation or the incentive to actually finish creating a character. But it's basically, it's a point-buy system.
Yeah.
Depending on the level that the GM chooses to use, you can get, I think, anywhere from 25 up to maybe 40 or 50 points, depending on, like, if it's a mythical, a super, super awesome legacy level game.
And that's patterned after hero systems, which I have to announce. Anytime we talk about game systems, I seriously have a serious love affair with hero games. So
yeah,
it's very much like hero games.
It's on 7th. Yeah, it's on 7th edition.
Is it 7th or 6th?
Yeah, I think it's on 7th.
I used to have it.
It just within the last. Well, I say just, but I know Fat Ogre recently got the last 6-7 months probably got the new stuff in.
It doesn't go away. It has a hardcore fan, group
that's
that you are
not,
part of.
That's not what you had me create a character in. You had me create a character in Heroes and Palladium.
That's Palladium's right. Heroes Unlimited. But the hero system itself is a monster unto itself.
You like the number crunchy games.
Yes. It took, for Hero, when we first started, it took over an hour to make a character.
Oh, yeah. When I did, in the Palladium stuff, it took quite a while.
Oh, yeah, because you had to get all the percentages and stuff.
Yeah.
And, Palladium, I miss that. But, yeah, for Hero System, we got it down to 45 minutes.
Cool.
It got really easy after a while.
Once you got used to doing it and stuff. Once you're familiar with it.
I could just create characters immediately.
And this is a point-buy system, but it's interesting that it's a point-buy system with so much in it. And it does remind me a little bit of Hero System because it's a kitchen sink system. This is, you'll have giant mecha, you'll have gun bunnies, you'll have swords and sorcery, you'll have psychics, you'll have magic, you'll have everything possible thrown in together in this book that you can make.
So in the second edition, do you think that they added all those additional books or concepts from those books?
Some of them, yes.
And maybe that's what they meant by streamlining. So now, instead of having to get a separate book, they have here OBM, Own a Big Mecha.
Yep.
4 points per level. It's a technological type.
Yeah, they have a section dedicated to mechs.
Yeah.
Actually, benefits and disadvantages or something. I forget what they call it, but just specifically for them.
That's cool.
But so...
Ooh, living and non-living mecha.
Yeah. But, it's one of those things where, this is a kitchen sink system where if your GM has a specific vision, you could make something and they completely dismiss it. Or if everybody makes their own thing that they want based on an anime, you could end up with the wildest, weirdest, wackiest things ever.
Well, see, go ahead.
Oh, I was about to say, it's the exact reverse of D&D.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of, I almost compare this to Rifts because, this is everything you can possibly imagine.
Another Palladium game,
Yeah.
One of the things that, when I first got into anime and I was trying to kind of tell some of my friends about it, because I always ran with people who we kind of had the same interests, and I didn't have any, besides Amanda, I don't think I had any friends really that I grew up with a girl who did, and I didn't understand her at all. I mean, we were good friends, but I was just like, I don't get this part of your life. We can't. Let's just go back to talking about
crazy anime chick.
Let's go talk about boy bands again. What happened to the Backstreet Boys? Why are you telling me about all this stuff? Yeah, I know. I was a young teenage girl. Leave it alone. It's a phase, okay? I went out of it.
I was a girl and in love.
Yeah.
Well, not me, but you can't prove it.
That's right. But I would tell them, I'm like, to me, and I understand anime as a genre, but to me, there are so many different types of animes.
Oh, yeah.
That cover a gamut of genres. That cover a gamut of genres, and anime is almost the medium. But I do know that when you talk about anime, even in a crime drama, I like Psycho-Pass.
Yeah.
Which Psycho-Pass does have some superpowered elements to it because everybody has these soul. I don't know if you've ever seen Psycho-Pass. But
you probably know more anime than I do.
Probably current anime. Probably you probably know more older stuff.
Yeah,
because
I'm an old person. Yes. Go
no,
ahead.
no, you got into it earlier than I did. I mean, I remember there are shows that I think technically were anime that I think I watched, but I was like I watched Speed Racer when I was a kid. He's kind of
that's technically
he had big eyes and a small mouth. I mean, so there were things.
I thought cast.
Where's the monkey? Ah.
But
Oh no, Speed Racer.
But Psychopaths. It's kind of a cop thing, but all the bad guys have these soul weapons that sprout from. I can't remember what they're called now, but they sprout from. It's like I don't know, but they sprout from like the small of their back, and they're these big, fleshy looking weapons that, like, one can look kind of like a scorpion tail. I mean, and it kills people very, very quickly. And so people are King K or something like that. And the people that don't have those have, like, the people that fight them. There's like a special division of the police department that deals with these guys. And they have their King K in a case. I think a King K is when you just have the weapon. It's not a part of you. But yeah, they bring this thing out and it like grows and they can fight.
Jesus.
Yeah, because normal weapons
Sounds
can't.
a little like Tokyo Ghoul with all the weird
Oh, wait,
things
am I
in
thinking
that.
of Tokyo Ghoul?
You might be, but
Okay, Psychopaths is about... Sorry about that. You're right. That is Tokyo. I was like, am I thinking of the right thing?
yeah, because
That's Tokyo
Psychopaths is
Ghoul.
where they kind of can see crime might be happening in the
Psychopaths,
future.
they have guns that read the hue of the person. So if I pointed this thing, it's called like a... I can't remember anything right now. It's been a long time. So, but you point this, it looks like a firearm at these people, but it will not arm unless your aura says that you're doing something bad.
It's
So it
kind of
won't-
quasi-minority report.
Yes,
kind of.
exactly.
But if somebody could manipulate hues within the system that is reading the hues, they could make innocent people look guilty, and so the gun would shoot them whether you pulled the trigger or not.
Yeah.
And so,
Wow.
yeah.
Makes for an interesting idea.
And it blows you up. But that's kind of a procedural. It felt like, because you were like, what's going on? You're trying to figure out this mystery. You've got all these police officers that are dealing with all this stuff. You're right, Tokyo Ghoul. But Tokyo Ghoul was good too.
Yeah.
But again, it's like it's this cop drama with this bizarre either cyber tech thing, because really Psychopaths feels kind of like cyberpunk, futuristic,
it does.
heavy tech that doesn't exist now, but is somehow making the world better. So, but so I tell people, I'm like, it's more a medium.
Yeah.
But when people say anime as a genre, it's because it's always got that weird thing or the over dramatic characters, because they're all like every time that something happens.
And I do agree with that. Like, I always felt like cinema in Japan, it was the anime that gave people the most versatile medium, because you could do all these crazy, outlandish, unbelievable things. And I don't mean like wacky. I mean just amazing. You could do it in a medium that didn't require as much money and special effects and worrying about whether or not it looks realistic or not to make it into a movie if you wanted to tell a story. So I always felt like anime did that. You know, it gave you that medium that you could do anything with. But this is one of the problems that I have with BESM. And so you're making your character, you're going along, and we oftentimes have that idea of an anime that we want to play, but are we that person? Can we actually pull off that kind of like dialogue over the top, or, you know, overexcited, or any of that kind of stuff? Can we actually do that for a long period of time?
Just the super fast whispered conversations that they have when people are being serious. I mean, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where they're like, pizza's hot, I know. But the pizza's hot, don't eat it. I know. I'm not going to eat it. Don't you eat it either? Okay, I won't.
Yeah.
but they're very serious and they're talking about something, but they're very...
But anime is one of those things that we observe. It's one of those things that it's a medium that you observe and you enjoy because you're observing it, not so much because you're taking part in it.
Right.
And the other problem with anime is, and a lot of the anime that's in this book that they reference, is that it is an anime that's still in the cartoon universe. You, like in Dragon Ball Z, somebody gets punched and they like go straight through a mountain. They can stand up and be okay.
Yeah.
You know, you have all these over the top things, mechanics and whatnot, you come into realization that it isn't so much about the characters that make anime what is anime, but it's the world.
Right.
And that's the one problem I had with BESM is there's no setting guide. Tell me, why is it that gravity works most of the time except when when Team Rocket flies off again? Why you have to have all these strange occurrences that make anime, and that this book doesn't deliver that.
Well, see, and I think that's why live action anime also kind of falls short sometimes.
Yeah.
Because if they try to do that, it looks too...
Dragon Ball Z.
Was there a live action Dragon
There was
Ball
a
Z?
horrible live action Dragon Ball Z. Yes,
You have to watch the Cinema Sans treatment of it. It is hysterical.
There's an American version, and I believe Korea put out one as well.
Oh Lord!
It was something to behold.
Oh, it was horrible. Didn't someone apologize for that?
Yeah.
Afterward.
Oh,
I
yeah.
forget. Someone high up on that particular chain was like, "I am so sorry."
I am so sorry that I put you all through this.
And nowadays, it's kind of like
I've ruined your childhood.
We have other things that are causing different forms of scandals with that, such as the Ghost in the Shell movie, which some people felt was whitewashing. But
did you see the movie?
No.
You haven't seen it?
I saw because I knew it would be Americanized. If you watch the original Ghost in the Shell, it deals with a lot of metaphysical, which is very common for a lot of the more serious. Akira being a primary example. Just this metaphysical. What does it mean to be human? What is it?
Right.
The main character. And I knew it was just going to be guns and beat 'em up in the live
there
action,
was. Now I had only seen the Ghost in the Shell movie.
Yes.
Anime. And I fell asleep in it.
Oh,
and so it was while John and I were dating, and he put it on really late
thing.
at time, and it just wasn't my cyberpunk. It always stuns people because I love sci-fi, but for some reason cyberpunk, it depresses me because it's like we have all this tech, but life sucks still, and I'm like,
I don't think I know you anymore.
I know.
This is where one of the things is generational, is that some anime does not hold up. I can be a somewhat empathetic person when I'm sitting down and watching with people, and I sat down and pulled out a copy of M66 with Roxy.
Oh my gosh!
And quite frankly, it was terrible.
I was like,
yeah.
Oh, it's bad.
Some of
I
them
used
do
to
not
love
age
it.
well. Some of them do not. Robotech is the same way.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is great, and then I saw it later. I'm like,
what the hell was that?
What was I thinking? Yeah. No, that's my thing with Cyberpunk. Which I know this isn't what this is about, but I don't do a lot of cyberpunk because I kind of prefer the utopian Star Trek future where everything, we have technology and it's better. Life is better. We have improved the quality of life. Whereas cyberpunk is like, yeah, we've given you guys some stuff that's really fun, but we're all morally gray characters. There's nobody that's good anymore. But I didn't mind the Ghost in the Shell movie, but again, I have watched it since. And it dealt with some things, but it didn't deal with them the way that the anime did.
yeah.
I still thought I would sit through it again, but that's me. I think my dad would like it, but he's never seen.
Yeah.
He's never seen
the anime that's considered the primary cyberpunk genre is Akira.
Yeah.
Like that's always combined.
She's seen that.
Now I have seen Akira and I did enjoy it. So.
I loved it.
Yeah. No, we'll have the cyberpunk discussion another day.
But so. That's the thing. And so BESM is, when it came out, it was the game that was the go-to game for anime.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are several things out there that are competing. There's one, I believe, called OVA, which of course, anime people from my generation, OVAs was original video animation. It was like a straight to DVD release of an anime, and it was actually a really big deal when that happened.
Straight to VHS.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But so there are other games out there that now do this, and this game has pretty much gone away to some extent.
Well, it's interesting because we have been monitoring somebody on our Twitter feeds that we do not know in person, but we have talked to before. But they have been in Japan, and all of their RPGs in their game stores are essentially look like anime RPGs, or at least all the art style is anime. And so, anime RPGs are still in existence, and there are some in America, but we definitely don't see them as prevalently.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
The
you don't
breadth or
hear
extent.
about it.
Yeah.
You don't really hear about
we're still
RPGs.
we're American enough that we don't understand everything being anime.
D&D and Kill 'em and
Call of Cthulhu, go insane.
yeah.
But really, I mean, could you imagine a Call of Cthulhu anime?
Oh, I'd love it.
That would be
Every
awesome.
second of it, I would just be thrilled.
That would the tentacles would be
Well, if it was fan service, it'd be completely different.
yeah, exactly.
If we actually made a legitimate.
They could probably do it and do it better for the budget, but
Well, that's true.
But the thing is, so this game they went on to try to do a 3rd edition launch, and the company made this decision, like many companies in the era, that this game would be best served moving to the D20 license, the post 3.0, 3.5 D&D system license. And they actually released 6 books for D&D, that system, the D20.
6 books were released for the D20 system following. When you say you've got D&D in quotes there, was it like a fantasy style anime?
Well, it followed like the release schedule. So when D&D released in 3rd edition, they put out their player's guide. Then they put out their DM's guide like a month or so later. Then they put out their monster manual another month or so later. They didn't release them all at the same time. And it was a really interesting thing when they did that. They don't really do that these days. They usually put out all 3 core rule books, and then they'll make their supplements later down the road. Pathfinder still sticks to that, though. Pathfinder, they always put out their core rule book, which has some monsters and some core systems, but then they'll do their supplements later on, like the GM Mastery book and, whatever.
Okay, well, I was going to say, because D&D does have a core book, the Player's Handbook and the GM's Guide.
Yeah.
Never mind. I was going to say the GM's Guide does have monsters in it, too, but it doesn't have a core rule book that everybody uses together.
Yeah. But so they kind of went with that idea of, okay, here's your character book, here's your book of monsters, here's your book about magic. And so they tried to follow that, and it worked for 6 books. And then that was, it kind of started to fall apart. There's a question of the completion or a continuation for BESM. And the company informed pre-orders that they would receive information about what was happening soon after. And this was going to be for a 3rd edition BESM outside of D20. Mm-hmm. And rumors and stories started to abound. Contracts and failed obligations to creators who worked for Guardians of Order. It was kind of a common story. I mean, this is also the burgeoning of the internet and news getting out. I mean, it was like one of those things where people were starting to talk more. It was easier to find out information about what was going on.
It was easier to communicate bad info as well.
But it was in 2006, and we're going to get into some interesting names here. George R.R. Martin announced that Guardians of the Order, who had contracted with him to produce a Game of Thrones RPG, had gone out of business. So it was the Game of Thrones guy, George R. Martin, who made the big announcement. Yeah, by the way,
they're out of business.
They're gone.
They're not doing our RPG.
Yeah.
Wow.
And a few days after that, basically it was made official. They officially announced after that.
I wish he would announce that he's going out of business.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've been hearing a lot of complaints about that.
We've been waiting, and he's not releasing it ever. So
yeah,
just stop it, man.
So, but on a sidetrack from that, for our portion of the 6 Degrees of Chris Pramas, because he is the Kevin Bacon of the game creation world.
He's the guy who did like Thieves World, and he does the Dragon Age RPG.
Yeah, every game that comes out, you can usually go a few degrees in one direction or another,
and it'll end up at Green Ronin because he's just he's in the business.
Yeah,
been in it a long time.
But so Green Ronin, after that took place, obtained the rights to George R.R. Martin's property and produced their Song of Fire and Ice role-playing game, which was eventually released in 2009.
And it's still going strong. In fact, maybe a new edition is coming out.
Yeah, they're talking about doing another edition of it. So massive congrats to them on that, and I look forward to it.
Mm-hmm. But who picked up BESM?
So BESM ended up, and this is where it gets kind of interesting, came under the ownership of White Wolf Publishing in 2007. It was part of the property sold to CCP Games. The product, however, is now in the new hands of the new White Wolf Publishing.
The Whitewash Publishing.
Yeah, the Whitewash Publishing, which is, we'll talk about that maybe if we talk about 5th edition of White Wolf or whatever the new one is. but the sub-brand Art House Publishing. Now, Art House is... you'll come across this for the games that we loved as young people and cannot find anymore. Art House usually has them. Art House gets those, and then they shove it onto Drive-Thru RPG. And so Art House is kind of like the elephant graveyard of role-playing games. But they said they have no intention of continuing it, producing new material for it, or doing anything else with it. It is just out there. Yeah, you can go buy it. And the property is not produced by other companies, and it's not going to be in development. So yeah, that was kind of that is where BESM is now. I mean, it's.
But it is available on DTRPG.
Yeah,
so.
It is available there. So all things considered, it's one of those things where I always hope that game creators, for good or bad, I never want somebody to truly just give up on the industry and leave it without it being their choice. Because I believe creative people should continue to produce and make things in the medium that they so choose. Mm-hmm. And so I do want to go ahead and toss out there that Mark McKinnon, who was the creator of Guardians of Order and BESM, entered the board game creation world with his Upon a Fable board game that was funded through Kickstarter in 2013 for Kicking It Games. And it succeeded in its production, and it did make, and you can go read about it on Board Game Geek to learn more about that game. But since then, he has not produced anymore. So I'm hoping that he'll continue to produce. I'm always happy to hear when creators return and do something more. So
that's very similar to Chris Sawyer. He did Roller Coaster Tycoon, and it made just this huge waves. But he did it all himself. I mean, he programmed it all himself. But anyway, after a while, he just disappeared.
Yeah. So many game creators that especially when we look at the older games, they just go away. I don't know if I really hope that they still go to conventions like Gen Con and are still part of the community out there because creators are usually gamers as well. And I hope that they're still out there doing, playing and enjoying the community and doing their thing and being creative people in their own way.
Yeah.
So,
I do have to say, I just was flipping through the book, and this has nothing to do with what we were just talking about. But since it's the end of the episode, before we go, I do want to read here. One of the genres of anime that he lists here in this book is Hero Team or Sentai. He says, a more generic cousin to the magical girl show, Sentai team shows features groups of characters who battle evil, blah, 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 blah. Talking about Ultraman or Power Rangers, stuff like that. But I love the last sentence. An occasionally popular subgenre is the Boys in Armor series, featuring a team of buff, angst-ridden teenage boys whose pretty boy features are designed to appeal to female fans, while the action typically draws male viewers. So there...
Oh, yeah.
That sounds almost like a fan service, kind of.
It is, to some extent.
It's just... I mean, I can see that, but it's just... That just sounded so bad. Well, we only put these good-looking guys in here so the girls will watch, because they don't care about the actual stuff. They want feelings. They want emotionally angst-ridden. I'm like, those are the ones that I can't stand.
Samurai
I'm like,
Troopers.
Hitch up your britches and get over it, man.
Gundam Wing. All these young male pilots and soldiers that join up and
Robotech.
Yeah.
Robotech,
and just to toss out in that direction, Champions of Earth does their own rendition of the
Super Sentai.
Yeah, Super Sentai show.
I mean, I don't think any of them are particularly buff, angst-ridden.
No, but it is that, everybody...
It is the Super... Which I like Super Sentai stuff. Yeah. I think I like, the fighting team and the
Voltron and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, where they all come together in their own colored uniform to form a team.
That's right. So, but anyway...
But yeah, so that was BESM, and fun looking back at it. It's a game that has a good place in my memories, to be honest. Cool. So, and if it strikes your fancy, if you are one of those people who are just like, hey, that might be what I'm looking for, go on to Drive-Thru RPG and enjoy.
Well, and you'll never know if our other podcasts that we're involved with Nerds Domain, Seriously Let's Play, will probably do maybe an anime season or a Japanese season, and this game may just pop up. We don't know yet.
You never know.
But always check out our other podcast, dicefoyers.libsyn.com. or on iTunes, Stitcher, and Podcast Addict, and everywhere else that you can find us, hopefully.
Absolutely. And I want to say thank you so much to Sam for coming back and joining us on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
All right. Well, thank you guys, and we'll see you soon.
Yep. Have a good night.
Yay.
You've been listening to Tome Travelers. Please subscribe to get our episodes as soon as they release. For more information about us, check out passionerdly.com, @passionerdly on Twitter and Instagram, as well as facebook.com/passionerdly. Also, if you're interested in supporting our show, look us up at patreon.com/passionerdly. Once again, thank you for listening.
This has been a production of the Southgate Media Group. For more podcasts like this one, head over to southgatemediagroup.com.